The night was cold in the heart of New York City, the kind of night where the air bites through your coat and the city hums like an engine that never stops. Yellow taxis sped past, their lights streaking through the drizzle, neon signs flickered across glass towers, and on the corner of 45th and Broadway stood Marcus and Alicia Brown, a black couple whose quiet grace stood out against the chaos. They weren't loud, they weren't flashy, just two people trying to get home. Marcus, tall, dignified, his shoulders broad beneath a tailored coat, his eyes carrying the calm of a man who'd seen both triumph and hardship. Alicia, radiant even beneath the city's harsh lights, her voice soft as she laughed at something he whispered, the kind of laugh that made people turn and smile without knowing why. But that night, the world wasn't in the mood for kindness. A cab slowed near them, the headlights flaring, and for a moment, hope flickered across Alicia's face. She raised her hand, smiling. But the driver's eyes met hers, then Marcus's, and his expression changed in an instant. The window rolled halfway down, the man inside sneering, "Not tonight. Try somewhere else," and before they could respond, the car sped off, splashing cold rainwater across their shoes. Marcus froze, jaw tightening, his hands forming fists at his sides. Another cab approached, then hesitated, the driver's gaze lingering before shaking his head and driving off. And another. One by one, they passed, each glance a silent judgment, each refusal a wound that reopened something old, something buried deep in generations of struggle. Alicia's voice broke the silence, low but trembling. "Did you see that? They looked right at us." Marcus said nothing at first, just exhaled slowly, his breath misting in the air. "Yeah," he said finally, his tone measured, "I saw." He'd been through worse, he told himself, but that didn't make it sting less. Because no matter how much success, how much fame, how many awards or millions they earned, there were still moments that stripped all of that away, leaving them just two faces on a cold street. Finally, an older taxi stopped. The driver, gray-haired and kind-eyed, leaned out and called, "Need a ride?" His accent was thick, his smile genuine. Marcus opened the door for Alicia, helping her in before climbing inside. As the city lights reflected across the window, neither spoke for a while. The hum of the tires filled the silence. Then Alicia whispered, "How many others go through this? People who can't just call another car, who can't make a scene." Marcus's hand found hers. "Too many," he said, eyes hardening. But tonight, that man picked the wrong couple to humiliate. They rode in silence until the driver glanced at them in the mirror, recognition dawning in his eyes. "Wait, are you too?" Alicia smiled faintly and raised a finger to her lips. "Not tonight," she said softly, "tonight, we're just people." The driver nodded, respect replacing surprise. He dropped them off with a quiet, "You two stay safe." But fate, as always, wasn't done. The next evening, the world flipped. The city's elite gathered under glittering chandeliers at the Manhattan Grand Hotel for a charity gala. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted names, and through the doors walked Marcus and Alicia Brown, arm in arm, elegant, confident, unbothered. The same couple who'd been denied a ride less than 24 hours ago were now the center of attention, the embodiment of grace under fire. Reporters swarmed. Fans screamed. And standing outside by the curb, waiting for a wealthy fare, was the same taxi driver from the night before. His smirk froze when his eyes found them. Time slowed. His face drained of color. The couple he dismissed stood beneath the golden lights, shaking hands with city leaders, smiling for cameras. He stepped back, his breath shallow. "No, no way," he muttered, realizing who they were. Marcus Brown, the former athlete turned billionaire entrepreneur. Alicia Brown, the world-renowned singer whose voice had filled stadiums. The driver's smirk twisted into horror. People nearby began whispering, recognizing him. "That's the guy who refused them last night," someone murmured. Phones came out. Pictures snapped. The man who thought he had power behind a steering wheel was now powerless before the truth. Inside the gala, Marcus took the stage, his voice echoing through the hall. "Respect," he began, "shouldn't depend on fame, on money, or on what someone looks like. It's the bare minimum every human being deserves. If you can't respect someone when you think they're nobody, you don't deserve to stand when you find out they're somebody." The room erupted in applause. Alicia wiped a tear, proud and moved. Outside, the taxi driver sank against his cab, realizing the universe had just handed him a lesson money couldn't buy. But just when justice seemed complete, the tone shifted. As Marcus and Alicia left the gala hours later, stepping into their limousine, a figure emerged from the shadows, Agent Daniels, his face grim, his suit dusted with rain. He approached their car quietly, leaning toward the open window. "Mr. and Mrs. Brown," he said, voice low and urgent, "I need to speak with you. Tonight wasn't just about a taxi driver. You're being watched." Alicia frowned. Watched? By who? Daniels looked around before handing Marcus a sealed envelope. "Open it when you get home," he said. "But understand this, what happened last night wasn't random. It was a test." Marcus's jaw tightened. "A test?" Daniels nodded, his eyes dark with warning. "And whoever's behind it, doesn't want you to make it to the next round." Then, without another word, he disappeared into the rain. The limousine doors closed. Marcus and Alicia sat in stunned silence, the city lights flickering across the glass as the driver pulled away. The envelope lay between them, heavy, ominous. Alicia reached for it, her fingers trembling. "Marcus, what if he's right?" Marcus stared ahead, his reflection in the window split by streaks of rain. Then, he said quietly, "We're in deeper than we thought." The narrator's voice cuts in, calm but heavy with tension. "Sometimes, disrespect isn't ignorance, it's bait. And when power fears truth, it doesn't just deny you a ride, it watches your every move." The camera lingers on the envelope in Marcus's hand as thunder rolls in the distance. The screen fades to black. The city never really sleeps, but that night, for Marcus and Alicia Brown, every sound outside their townhouse felt louder than usual. The hum of passing cars, the distant echo of sirens, the wind rattling the windowpane. The envelope Agent Daniels had handed them sat on the coffee table, untouched for hours, its weight heavy enough to press on the air itself. Alicia paced the living room, her heels clicking softly against the floor, while Marcus sat motionless, elbows on his knees, eyes locked on that sealed envelope like it was alive. "We can't just sit here," Alicia whispered finally. "Whatever's in there, we need to know." Marcus nodded, slow and silent, before reaching for it. His hands were steady, but his heart wasn't. He tore it open. Inside were photographs, grainy, black and white images of their lives when they thought no one was watching. Marcus jogging in the park. Alicia leaving a recording studio. Both of them stepping out of their townhouse, unaware of the hidden camera lens aimed from across the street. Attached was a single note typed in cold, clean letters, "You are being watched. Every move. Every word." Alicia gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Marcus, these are days apart, weeks apart. Someone's been following us for months." Marcus's jaw tightened. This wasn't random. That taxi driver, that moment, it was staged. He rose, pacing now, his voice low but sharp. They wanted a reaction. To see how we'd handle humiliation in public. Alicia's eyes widened. But why? Who would do this? Before Marcus could answer, the phone rang. Unknown number. He let it ring once, twice, then picked up. A voice, distorted but calm, said, "Now you know we're watching. Back away from your foundation's new project. Or we'll make sure the world turns against you." Click. Silence. Marcus froze, the phone still in his hand. Alicia stared, her pulse racing. "Our foundation?" she asked. Marcus nodded slowly, realization dawning. "The education program, the one exposing corruption in city grants. That's what this is about. They're scared of what we're uncovering." The next morning, the story twisted again. Headlines splashed across tabloids: Marcus and Alicia Brown under investigation for charity misuse. Lies. Fabrications. Reporters crowded outside their gate, shouting questions, snapping photos, feeding off the chaos. Alicia stood by the window, tears burning her eyes. "They're turning everything around on us." Marcus's eyes darkened with quiet fury. "Then it's time we turn it back." Hours later, Marcus met Agent Daniels in a hidden office beneath a federal building, concrete walls and fluorescent lights humming overhead. Daniels slid a new file across the table. Inside were documents, transactions, emails, names. "You were right," Daniels said. "That taxi driver was hired. The same company has ties to a private intelligence group, one funded by several corporations your foundation's been investigating." Marcus leaned forward. "So this wasn't about racism?" Daniels shook his head. "No, it started that way because they knew the story would blow up online. They wanted distraction, chaos, sympathy mixed with scandal. But the goal was always control. They want your silence." Alicia spoke up, voice trembling but firm. "Then they'll never get it." That night, Marcus and Alicia returned home with a plan. Marcus contacted his media team, Alicia called her attorney. "If they want exposure," Marcus said, "we'll give them exposure." By dawn, their story broke across major networks, not the lies, but the truth. Video evidence, timestamps, files linking the fake scandal to powerful figures. The internet exploded. Hashtags flooded timelines. Support poured in from millions who saw through the manipulation. But victory came at a price. As they prepared for a live televised interview that evening, Daniels called again. "Be careful," he warned. "We intercepted chatter. Someone's planning to stop that broadcast. You're making powerful enemies." Marcus replied, "Then they should have picked a quieter target." The studio lights glowed bright as Marcus and Alicia sat side by side before the cameras. The host introduced them as symbols of grace under pressure, truth in the face of deceit. When asked what they wanted the world to learn from their ordeal, Marcus looked straight into the camera and said, "You can humiliate a person, you can follow them, you can twist their story, but you can't bury truth. You can't silence those who rise with integrity. The moment you try, you reveal your own weakness." Alicia added softly, "We were tested, not because we were famous, but because we refused to bow. And tonight, we stand for everyone who's ever been dismissed, doubted, or disrespected. Dignity is not negotiable." The crowd watching from home erupted online, millions of shares, millions of hearts moved. Justice, for once, felt real. But as they left the studio, stepping into their waiting limousine, Marcus noticed something strange. The driver wasn't their usual man. This one wore dark sunglasses, his collar turned up. "Where's Alan?" Marcus asked. The driver's voice was curt. "Sick tonight. I'm covering." Marcus's instincts prickled. He exchanged a quick look with Alicia, silent but sharp. Halfway down the bridge, the driver suddenly swerved off route. Marcus's voice rose, calm but commanding. "You're off the path." The man said nothing. Alicia's heart pounded. The car sped faster. Marcus reached forward, grabbing the partition handle. "Pull over. Now." The driver laughed low, chilling. "You should have kept quiet, Mr. Brown." Alicia screamed as Marcus lunged, slamming his shoulder into the partition, breaking it open. The driver tried to reach for something, metal glinted beneath the dashboard, but Marcus grabbed his arm, the two men struggling as the car veered dangerously close to the guardrail. Tires screeched. The world blurred in flashing lights. Alicia's voice cried out, "Marcus." Then, silence. The car slammed to a halt inches from the edge. The driver slumped forward, unconscious. Marcus, bruised but alive, yanked open the door and pulled Alicia out into the cold night air. They stumbled onto the bridge, shaking, breaths visible in the mist. Sirens blared in the distance. Agent Daniels's car screeched up moments later, lights flashing. He rushed toward them. "I told you, they'd escalate," he said breathlessly, scanning the unconscious driver. Marcus's voice was steady, though his hands trembled. "Then it ends tonight." Daniels handed him a phone, his tone grim. "We traced the command back to a single name, the man funding the smear campaign, the surveillance, the hit." He hesitated. "Marcus, it's someone close to your circle. Someone you've trusted." Alicia's eyes widened. "Who?" Daniels looked at them both, the city lights flickering off his face. "You'll want to sit down for this." He turned the phone toward them, revealing a photo, someone powerful, familiar. Marcus's eyes went cold. "No, it can't be." The narrator's voice fades in, deep and haunting. "Sometimes, the enemy isn't the stranger who refuses you a ride. Sometimes, it's the hand that's been guiding your journey all along." Lightning flashes across the skyline as Marcus and Alicia stand frozen, the truth burning in front of them. The camera pans out, the bridge, the rain, the silent city below, and the screen fades to black.